Welcome back to Shots Fired. Well, over the last 2 years, with all of the jamming of Israel propaganda down our throats, with all the pastors parading around with Israel flags, with all the MAGAs masquerading around with flags that say Israel and America first, and with all of this stuff being pushed down, Israel, 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 all the trips over to the Western Wall, you would think that maybe Israel's support amongst Americans in the world would actually increase. That's their goal, at least, is for with all that, we would actually support them more somehow. But interestingly enough, what they found over the last couple weeks is that support for Israel has actually declined. Very interesting. So according to a latest poll, sympathy for Israelis have dropped 14%, which is a lot. 14% amongst Republicans, Christian Zionist Republicans, over the last year, underscoring waning support for Israel. So what's more interesting too is it's at a record low. So sympathy for Israel and Jews is at a record low. They've never seen this lack of support before. They've always seemed like they've had, their finger on the button here. They've always seemed like they've got it pinned down with support for Israel, but not this time. Support for the Israeli state among the general U.S. public is declining, which interestingly enough, particularly among younger Americans. With recent polls showing a decrease in sympathy for Israelis and a rise for Palestinians. So with all that being said, it kind of seems like maybe their propaganda is actually backfiring a little bit. We see this time and time again, though, as much as they pushed vaccines and COVID down our throat, it worked for a little bit. And then all of a sudden people started waking up, thinking for themselves and thinking, wait, why is this being pushed so much? Maybe we should think for ourselves and think, is this even something that's good, or is this just propaganda and gaslighting? Well, to talk about this and go deeper into why potentially we have waning support for Israel, we've got back on the show Austin Witsit to join us and delve a little bit deeper. Austin Witsit, great to have you back on Shots Fired. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you. So, Netanyahu just came out this week saying that he believes the waning support for Israel and sympathy for Israel has to do with bots and social media algorithms, somehow tricking the general public to believe that there's more support for Gaza and Palestinians than Israel. So, it's blaming it on bots and algorithms. Check out this clip real quick if you missed it.
The deception, the lies, the starved children, the pictures of starved children who turn out to have cerebral palsy or other congenital diseases that leave them emaciated. And Israel is, of course, accused of starving children, pretty much the way that in the Middle Ages Jews were accused of killing Christian children for their blood. So, what do you do against the lie that circles the earth 10 times before the truth has a chance to emerge? You have to shorten the war as speedily as possible. And frankly, we also have to do something about the algorithms and the social networks. This is a big challenge. I don't want to just.
So he says this. He blames the declining American support on a concerted effort to vilify and demonize Israel. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's just projection, actually. I think that most of the support for Israel online is not organic at all. You have largely, of course, the conservatives that are just sold out to them, and that's largely their funding is tied to Israel. And then there's tons of bots for them. So I think it's just projection. All the opposition is organic, and obviously so. I think a big part of this is what they're freaking out about is as that number goes down, it's not going to go back up. Meaning the only way Israel even got this far was no one looked into them. We just assumed that they were an ally, whatever.
Yeah.
And then they just start murdering babies. So now people look into them and then we find out, oh, Jeffrey Epstein, Mossad, basically they run our government. There's no going back once you take the Israeli pill, if you will.
Right, exactly. So again, we have to look at the playbook of who's in charge here. Whoever has the most power, they do organize the media and social media and their institutions against us to gaslight us and whatever their view is. It worked for COVID and vaccines for a short while. It worked for, anti-Trump propaganda, pretty much anything that they do, they organize that. So you're right, it's exactly the opposite. All the support for Israel is mostly fake. And you're right also that once people take that pill, once people kind of see the truth, you can't unsee it. And they're freaking out about this. They know that people are waking up to the truth that Israel, they're the real extremists, not the people of Gaza.
Yeah, exactly. The support for Israel was, it had to stay under wraps for people to keep supporting them. Because then you find out all the way back to 1948, they've been deceiving and, subversively manipulating the United States the entire time. So in a way, they overplayed their hand with Gaza, and it's kind of like a blessing in disguise. I hate to even say that because it's horrific, obviously, and
Yeah, I know
tragic.
what you mean.
But I mean, if they just ran unchecked for another 50 years, it would have been way worse. So I don't know what they're planning to do other than, well, we started, so we can't stop now, right? If you've looked into it, obviously they're really into the Greater Israel Project. So they've started that. I don't think that they will stop. But I will say the younger generation, I was hard pressed to find anyone that likes Israel.
Really?
Why would you like them though? I mean, the only reason I know that people like them is the misinterpretation of the Bible. And,
Hmm.
the younger generation is being told all the red pills about Israel to this point that I don't know. I don't see it being reversed. Actually, what I see is them having to clamp down on us even talking about Israel. That's the only way that they can kind of keep it under wraps.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why they're coming out with all of these, anti-Semitism, free speech laws, and Trump and his DOJ have spent all this time and energy and resources combating anti-Semitism. I mean, it's amazing. Like that's their focus is combating anti-Semitism, aka combating free speech. That doesn't bode well for Americans and our freedom to have free speech and ideas.
And this is crazy because I felt like Trump had such a cakewalk, like all he had to do was basic things like sew up the border, crack down on human trafficking, make a couple economic moves. That's all he had to do.
And
But
act like he's America first, like pretend
exactly.
even that he's America first, right?
Exactly. But he couldn't. That just shows how much control that they have, right?
Yeah.
And what's the issue Israel has is every topic they have their hands in a malevolent way, like a nefarious way. So human trafficking, for example, right? Because he dropped the ball on the border hard. That's got to be the easiest win ever.
Yeah.
And he couldn't do it because he's not allowed to fully do it. I mean, the human trafficking all goes back to oftentimes Israeli influence. And we know that there's all kinds of pedophiles that get to just dip off to Israel and can't be extradited. It's like a well-known thing. And of course, we know that there's like a rape culture over there, et cetera. So I think that was the shocking part for a lot of people. Some of us kind of saw it coming, but to see that Trump was so beholden to Israel that he had to basically walk on stage with his tail tucked and do whatever they said is probably a bit surprising for some people. I mean, when you look into it, it makes sense though. It's he's been in bed with them for decades.
So you don't think this is sort of new? You think we're just noticing it now, but it's been going on for a while with him in Israel, or he's more brazen now on the second term? Because I didn't notice it as much on his first term.
Yeah, so it was much more subtle in the first term. He did pass, like he's the one that did the White House definition of anti-Semitism, which is
That's
basically
so.
just like any criticism of Israel, any criticism of Jewish power at all is anti-Semitic. That's the whitehouse.gov. First term 2017, I think he did that. So he did some things and he made some comments about anti-Semitism, but it wasn't nearly as bold. But this is his second term, right? This is when he would have to really do everything that they want him to do unless he runs for a third term or something crazy, right? But so yeah, I just think it's more bold now, and I think also because of Gaza, everything's way more extreme, right? Like to kind of overcorrect, they have to be much more brazen about what they want to do. But when I looked into Trump, he got the Jewish Tree of Life Award in like the 80s. He was bailed out by Wilbur Ross, which is the Rothschild Inc., like financier or whatever. And he got a sweetheart deal that he shouldn't have got. He basically just got free hundreds of millions of dollars for free. It bailed out the casino. And then you look into just even Wikipedia, if you look into the awards he's received, almost half of them are Jewish awards. Okay. So then
Wow.
there's like a really crazy rabbit hole too. I don't know if you've heard this, but like they gave him the crown of the Messiah, which is a huge deal. They gave him a silver crown. It's only supposed to go on the head of the Messiah. And then they gave him another award that refers to him as the Prince of Peace from Isaiah, which is a messianic prophecy. So
Wow.
there's a huge rabbit hole that he's like the kind of Gentile Messiah and that there are two Messiahs, or that he's secretly Jewish, or I don't know about that, but they definitely love him, right? I mean, they named the heights after him and everything.
Wow, that's crazy. And it makes you rethink certain little things that you kind of brushed away at the time, but now it's coming back full circle. What about the fact that he never put his hand on the Bible when he took the oath of office for his second term? A lot of people are like, oh, it was just an accident or something like that. How do you make that accident? You're supposed to put your hand on a Bible like every single president in the United States history while you're taking that oath of office. Melania couldn't have reminded him, put your hand here. Anyone? I mean, do you think that's an accident now, looking back on it?
I cannot foresee a scenario that you would forget to do that.
Yeah.
Especially, it's not even like he could say he was real flustered. He's been president. He's been
Yeah.
president and then ran again. I mean, yeah, I'm a conspiracy theorist, right? You're not going to be able to figure this out for sure, obviously, but I don't think it was an accident. I think it was on purpose. Have you ever listened to his answers about God? He's
God.
like, I don't have to ask for forgiveness. I just try not to mess up.
Yeah.
And so I don't think that he's even remotely close to a Christian. Again, the rabbit hole with that one too, right? Like, is he kind of the
I
opposite,
know.
right?
It's sad because during the first term when I did, I was much more of a MAGA Trumper, very loyal. I would be the one who excused him for every bad move he'd make. And every time someone would ask him about God or faith or the Bible, he would give these weird, ambiguous answers. And I was always like, darn, that kind of sucks because he's supposed to be this great conservative president. And if he doesn't have faith in God, then that makes me question things about him.
Yeah.
And if he was really shot, that moment at Butler at his rally, and he was really, sparred or saved from being killed, you would think that he would just have like a total faith revolution, and he would be all for God. He would say this was a miracle. Like he said it a few times, but it sounded totally scripted when he said it. It was like a one-line thing. It seemed scripted or coached. But you would think if that actually happened to him, that he would be talking about it kind of nonstop. And that's why I also suspect that the Butler, Pennsylvania incident was also potentially a false flag staged by him. I don't want to believe that, but I kind of, there's a lot of evidence pointing to that too.
Yeah, I think it was as well. People's initial response to that is always like, "Oh, you're saying those people didn't die? They may have really killed people,
Yeah, which is even
And
more tragic.
yeah, but just I mean, you think these people are above sacrificing a couple lives? Look what they're doing in Gaza. Okay,
Yeah.
they don't care about human life. I will say that's another cakewalk for Trump, meaning he could have just walked right in, said a couple Bible verses, not even really
Yeah.
known much, and then Christians have been like, "Yes, perfect, let's go with Trump." And he
Yeah.
didn't do it. I think it's even more nefarious, right? I think it's like he can't do it. He can't
Yeah.
do it. It's like he's opposed to it,
Yeah.
or he'll say whatever he needs to say to win someone over, but he just can't bring himself to do it when it comes to Christ.
Yeah.
I think he's like opposed to Christ, right? I know this is intense and it's not what we want to hear, but
No, I want to
you
talk
know,
about it.
yeah,
Yeah,
you
I
look at
think
it, look
that
at the fruit.
yeah, I think that there's something, and I think that's where Israel comes into play. It's like Netanyahu's always watching him and stuff. Like, where's his loyalty really lying? And I think when it comes to that, he just can't talk about Christ in a meaningful way because it's
Cool.
against his beliefs, I believe, and against his loyalty of who's pulling the puppet strings. And I also noticed that too during the whole COVID thing. At first, he came out and started talking about it, how he felt like it was a scam and it was a sham, and this is not adding up. This is making no sense. And then all of a sudden, he did a turnaround and he was all for masks and all for vaccines. So again, and who owns most of these vaccine manufacturing companies? I mean, who's the ones who are probably profiting from most of it? It all comes back to Israel, right?
Yeah, Israel and Jews.
Yeah.
I mean, most of the Jews are loyal to Israel, not necessarily all of them, but it's like nepotism at its finest, right?
Mhm.
And I think that people get uncomfortable when you point out the Jewish aspect of it instead of just saying Israel, but that's what it is. It's Jewish, and it's actually important because there is an ethnic supremacy built into the ideology. And
Mhm.
also when you bring up the opposition to Christ, I mean, they're not fans of Christ, right?
Yeah.
I mean, at all. They think he's a fake Messiah. I think he's an imposter. I mean, interpretations of the Talmud say he's burning in excrement.
Yeah.
So and they spit on
Worse than
Christians.
that. Right.
Yeah. So it's like, I don't think that it can be overstated the importance of the Jewish component as well. Right. And then, miss me with all the straw mans of like, oh, I'm anti-Semitic, I hate all Jews. That's all stupid, right? It's
Yeah.
just no, there's a group of powerful Jewish people. Jewish power is an issue. They're disproportionately represented, and they are more loyal to Israel than they are here. Of course, they are the Jewish, right?
Yeah.
So it's important because if you look at that ideology, the behavior makes a lot more sense. They want the West to fall. They want America to fall. They want to infiltrate it with degeneracy and porn and all this nonsense, drugs and flood the borders, and because they want the West to fall, right? There's even like Jewish interpretations that the West has to fall, that we're Edom before their Messiah can come. So there's like huge rabbit holes with this. I do think the world's waking up, and I don't know how they're going to handle it, right? They're either going to overcorrect with like really overt infringement of free speech, or it's just too late. I mean, I don't know really what else they can do.
Yeah, they're definitely getting desperate, though. You can tell that. And then lastly, Trump was just on Mark Levin's show, which he's, always says it's the best show ever. Got to watch Mark Levin. And then he directs all his supporters to watch the Mark Levin show that night. And it's always something like pure propaganda, for Jews. But Donald Trump was on the Levin show the other day, and he said that that Netanyahu is a war hero and that he's a war hero too. They're both war heroes together. So if you missed that clip, let's roll it real quick.
Worked with your friend Bibi. He's a good man. He's in there fighting. He's fighting. They're trying to put him in jail on top of everything else. How about that? He's nuts. He's a war hero because we work together. He's a war hero. I guess I am too. Yep. Nobody cares, but I am too. I mean, I sent those planes.
The man you just heard from is desperately seeking a Nobel Peace Prize. Yes, President Donald Trump declared that despite the ongoing genocidal campaign in Gaza, he and Netanyahu are war heroes. War heroes. There's currently a warrant by the International Criminal Court for Netanyahu because of the war crimes he's committing, but he's a war hero. Okay.
So, what do you think about him? And then him calling Bibi the greatest man alive, and he's always looking up to him and everything. It's embarrassing, right?
Yeah, it is incredibly embarrassing. Yeah, what a joke, man. Obviously, we know he's like a war criminal. Mm-hmm. And even what Trump did with Iran is just unacceptable. Even just believing that story, and it's how it's totally predictably programmed in the Tom Cruise movie, whatever it's called, a Top Gun.
Right.
Like the exact storyline of Top Gun is what happened. Wow. I think the world's kind of a script. I think that Trump is entirely beholden to Israel. Basically, Israel runs America. Like that, it's just the way it is. And this is why, well, look what he's doing with the Epstein thing, right? It's like, because what was Epstein? He got all the most powerful politicians with blackmail, and Israel runs America. You can even look at the Israeli spy Jonathan Pollard and Bill Clinton and how he couldn't really release him because they hit him with the warning shot of Monica Lewinsky. It's well known that Netanyahu had tapes of him. So if you spill that over to the war criminal aspect, it's like, there's nothing that they can stop Israel from doing, right? Like they completely control America. They control our government. They control our politicians. And I for one would just say Trump's not excluded from that. There's a lot of whistleblowers that have come out and said Trump was there. Trump did things to them. Trump was part of that whole world. Yeah. So that would kind of explain, where we're watching him murder babies and he's telling us that he's a hero, right?
I know, it's crazy, and it's just so embarrassing too. He's getting more blatant with it and brazen. It's like watching another man suck up to another man and simp for him, and especially one that's supposedly as powerful as Trump. It's like, when did you get so gross? When did you get so gay? Ew. Gay for Israel. So yeah, I think sadly, I didn't even believe it so much or see it with my own eyes up until I would say more like a few months ago. And then I really, really started seeing it. And that makes me sad because Trump did have so much working for him on this term, and so many people believed in him. He gained a lot of new supporters into him this year that took a chance and voted for him. And then it just all came crashing down like very fast. Like he couldn't even wait a couple weeks into his new term before like just crashing and burning. Fail after fail after fail. So it's really sad. We got 3.5 more years left. It's kind of worrisome what's going to happen in these 3.5 years. Is he just going to completely devolve into a shell of himself and a full shill of Israel? I don't know, but we got a lot of time, so that's pretty scary. Um, Austin, last words, and then of course, tell everybody where they can follow you and find you.
Yeah, so I would say yes, he is going to keep getting worse, and it looks like he's moving us towards some AI dystopian,
Yes.
crazy world. And it's
Another
like the
thing.
it's like the Super Bowl commercial with the dollar, right? And you go to get it, and he says, "Ha ha, gotcha." That's
Yeah,
the second term. They got you. They don't need you
a
for another
rug
term.
pull.
Yeah, so they don't care what you think. So
Yeah.
I do think it would get worse. It'll get worse, but I think speaking out against it is the number one threat. That's why they're freaking out. So actually, I'm an optimistic person. The powers in the people. We
Mm.
just have to be vocal, keep speaking out, and they have to panic and then respond to us. That's my optimistic take on it.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can follow me. Witsit gets it on all platforms. I'm currently still on YouTube, Rumble, X. Witsit gets it.
Awesome. All right, follow him. It's on the lower thirds below, so give him a follow. Thanks so much, Austin Whitson. We'll have you back on again soon. Guys, we'll be right back right after these quick messages. Don't go anywhere.